Some ghosts come.
There you go, right? Smith's already done it. It's been recorded.
Some ghosts. That's it. That's the synopsis.
That's the synopsis done.
Some ghosts come.
No, but you can't say it like that. It's got to be some ghosts come.
Yeah, some ghosts come.
Hello, you are listening to Off Radar, It's a Movie podcast. I'm James Smith, a professional film and video editor.
I'm James Eatock, a freelance writer and illustrator specialising in 1980s cartoons.
And I'm Neil Brock, aka Nige, the man with two names, former film journalist and currently working in the games industry.
Each week, one of us picks a movie that all three of us either haven't seen in many years or in some cases haven't seen at all.
We each watch the chosen movie, return to the microphone and let you all know exactly what we thought of it.
I'd never really had any interest in watching it and I was proved absolutely right.
I think it's amazing. I really, really love this film.
The film's still a pile of steaming dog shit.
If you fancy joining in and suggesting a movie for us to watch, why not tweet us at Off Radar Podcast
or email us on offradarpod@gmail.com.
If you like what you hear, please subscribe, share, and by all means, leave a review.
For now, strap in, turn the volume up, and let's go Off Radar. I just need a really quick wee-wee, then we'll crack on.
I need to do a wee-wee. Yeah.
I did my wee-wee.
Hello. Hello.
Oh, I see you being
Smith. Welcome back to Off Radar. It's a movie podcast. I don't normally say that. I am James Smith and I'm joined by Neil Brock.
Hello.
Who
Not
we call
spooky at all.
Nige.
Yes.
And James Eatock.
Hello.
Who we call Eatock.
I'm actually doing my ghostly voice, but I'm a happy ghost, so just like, all right?
Oh, all right, mate.
Ghostbusters.
Oh, God, shut up.
We're not doing that one. We are doing a film today which was made in 2001 called The Others. Now, this was also suggested by a listener called Ross Gould.
I call him
Gould. See what I
a ghostly camel of a man.
And at the end of this episode, we will read out Ross's rating and review out of 10 of this film.
Ross.
And ours as well. Had we seen this film before we did it for the pod?
Oh, I saw the poster.
That's not the film, though.
Oh.
So, no, you hadn't seen it?
No, I hadn't seen it.
Oh, wow. Nige?
I watched it about 6 months ago when I had COVID and was like, I'm just going to watch loads of films. And I always thought The Others was actually The Hours. Because for some reason I just thought they were like the same film. My brain was clearly
this episode's off to a great start.
Yeah.
So I've gone away and watched The Hours. Are we talking about that?
We are not. We are doing The Others.
I have seen it. Yes, I've seen it. Yes.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, I have. I watched it around the time it came out, and I watched it. Yeah, so it came out in 2001, and I remember thinking, I'm going to watch this film. Even though The Sixth Sense came 2 years before it, and I think at the time, the hype was almost like, oh, it's a bit Sixth Sense-y, so that's why I watched it.
That literally ruins the film.
I never heard that at all. I
really?
knew very little about it going into it. I knew that Nicole Kidman was in it, and it was potentially also The Hours. Oh,
although,
no,
in fairness, the poster actually says The Others, it's a bit sensy.
To be fair,
it's an odd tagline.
They probably marketed
the small child does look like Bruce Willis as well. So.
To be fair, the small child in this film does look about 45. That was one of my notes.
Oh, wow, okay.
So, yeah, it was directed and written by Alejandro Amenábar. Alejandro Amenábar. So he...
we'll just call him the double A.
I can't pronounce his surname, so forgive me. But yeah, he directed Open Your Eyes, which is the Vanilla Sky original. And he did a load of Spanish films, which I have not seen or heard of. He also did the music in this film as well, interestingly.
Yeah, he's a composer as well as a director. So very clearly talented chap.
And yeah, as you said, it stars Nicole Kidman. It also has Fionnula Flanagan in, Alakina Mann, who plays Anne, James Bentley plays Nicholas, they're the two children, Eric Sykes.
Eric Sykes. I couldn't believe that when he turned. I was like, Eric Sykes?
That was a bit of a surprise. Elaine Cassidy and Christopher Eccleston although at the beginning of the film, it's like Nicole Kidman, Christopher Eccleston. He's not in it that much, but anyway.
Who? Is he a doctor? Oh, who is he a doctor? See what I did
Doctor
there?
Who, yeah.
Very good, very good.
He doesn't play a doctor, actually.
So yeah, the others, yeah, as we said, 2001. Now, Nige, I asked you to do a bit of a synopsis for this. Hopefully, you have thought of something.
Yeah, so The Hours is a 2002 American psychological drama. No, wait. Oh, I've messed up, haven't I?
Man.
Okay.
Who's in The Hours?
Nicole Kidman. That's why I keep getting them mixed up.
Is she in that as well?
And,
okay. Right.
Yeah, she has like a really weird nose, and she got a lot of plaudits for her brilliant performance because she had a weird prosthetic nose.
Okay. Well, but
it's like it's a remake of that Steve Martin film when he's Roxanne. There you go.
Oh, what, with the Pinocchio nose thing?
What is
I don't know. Yeah.
So anyway, in 1945, there is a character called Grace Stewart, played by Nicole Kidman, who has 2 children, and they live in a house. It's obviously wartime. 2 children are called Anne and Nicholas, and they have an unspecified disease characterized by photosensitivity, which means they have to draw all the curtains, and for some other reason I can't remember, they shut all the doors and they lock them and they hide them away. But yes, their father, unfortunately, has gone away to war and is feared dead. So it's a very sad time for this family. And they're in this big house, and there's a bunch of people there who work in the house. There's an Irish lady called Mrs. Mills who explains to them all about the sort of quirks of living in this house. And as the film goes on, it gets very spooky and scary things happening, and things go bump in the night, and we don't know what to think. But I tell you what we do think. This film is not The Hours. It's The Others, and anyone who tells you that is wrong. So yes, I think...
It's a ghost story film, basically.
It's a ghost story. It's a classic ghost story. It's a very interesting ghost story. It's obviously set with a very British mentality as well, which is something that plays a very prominent part of this film.
Sometimes the world of the dead gets mixed up with the world of the living.
As you can see, the housework has been rather neglected since the servants disappeared almost a week ago.
Do you mean they just vanished?
Into thin air.
How do you do, children? I'm your new nanny.
Are you going to leave us too?
Why should I leave you?
The others said they wouldn't, but they did, and then it happened. Why have you opened the curtains? It was Victor.
Opening of this film, it feels really raw and British. The house is a character in this film, but then also like what's around the house, it's all misty and dark, and it feels really kind of cold and obviously
misty
and dark, but
cold and misty
the fact
and dark.
that it's also set as you say around the wartime does kind of, you know, they try and ground it and give it some sense of reality, which is obviously...
Well, it's very remote, isn't it? It's set in Jersey as well, which was, for those of you who aren't up to your historical knowledge, was somewhere that was actually sort of taken over by the Germans, invaded. And obviously part of the reasoning why Christopher Eccleston's character went off to war, because he didn't want to stay on Jersey and essentially surrender. And Nicole Kidman's character makes a big point about saying this house was never taken by the Germans. We never let a Nazi step in here. But as the film progresses, as we kind of mentioned, that spooky side, there's sort of visions of an older lady that sort of crop up. There's people that are desperate to undraw the curtains, to draw them back and let the light in, which again, for the children, is something that Nicole Kidman's character Grace is very much against. And I think throughout the film you kind of get a sense of her tension and her mental well-being sort of being unstable and things heightening, and there's a lot of sort of talkbacks to her essentially losing her mind at a previous point, and even the kids reference it, that she kind of lost her mind.
Her relationship with those kids as well, like she's so mean. She never lets them...
She's very matter of fact.
She never lets them play.
There's a lot of talk about death and illness, and a lot of talk about God and the four... What do they talk about? The four sort of places that you go to after you die, like purgatory, and essentially like they call it almost like a children's purgatory, which is essentially a form of hell, which is very jolly.
I will tell you all about hell. That is it. You will tell me all about hell. I want to say that she does a great accent, old Nicole.
She does. I mean, she's really good at accents, just generally, actually.
I mean, she's fantastic.
She's better than us in the Fargo episode, if anyone's listened to that. So
How dare you, Nige?
How dare you? Hello!
But yeah, the kids are both, like, they're crying out for love and attention. And, you know, she does not give them anything. You know, there's no... You know, she won't let them listen to the radio and the piano. You know, like there's a piano there, and she like shuts the piano. Won't let them do that. And you know that
they really need a good suntan as well. She should take them to the beach because they're very, very pale children.
The
really,
disease
again,
bit
photosensitivity
is a bit weird, isn't it? This whole disease that both of these kids have this disease where, like, this was right at the beginning of the film where they can't get exposed to sunlight, and that really confused me. It was like, okay, so they've both got the same weird skin genetic disease, and yeah, that I wasn't really sure about that.
No, like I'm watching that moment in the film at the start, and I'm thinking, oh right, her character, Nicole Kidman's character, is clearly, you know, very controlling, maybe paranoid, maybe doesn't really. I thought
maybe
it was more to do with.
Really?
Yeah, I thought it was more to do with her keeping control of her children and not wanting to see the outside world. So you're like, okay, so she doesn't want them to, you know, be exposed to light. Because obviously we learn all of this, we should stress, because these three people come to servants, like this elderly...
Mrs. Mills and co.
Lydia is
Mrs.
the
Mills
one that
and their
doesn't
daughter.
talk, basically.
Basically, it's almost like this is the expositional scene where Nicole Kidman walks around the house explaining, you know, all the doors. There are 15 different keys for 50 doors in this house. I was like, how big is this bloody house? I mean, it is a huge house. And so you kind of, from terms of a writing point of view, you're using the new characters, as it were, the others, as it were, to explain the premise of the movie and to kind of get us up to speed on what's going on. And it doesn't feel quite right. She comes, even though these people are very kind and very nice, Nicole Kidman still comes across as quite short with them, very... much like we see with her children, very to the point, matter of fact, very, very as cold as the house itself.
Well, she almost looks like a porcelain doll, doesn't she?
Yes.
She's so, like, almost
so pale.
Rigid, and as you say,
even
very...
her hair is not out of place in the whole film. It's all hairsprayed into place. Like, even when later in the film where she gets scared and stuff, like, you're right, she's so she doesn't her hair doesn't go messy, and we find out later in the film why. But the same with the children.
Because she's actually a hairdresser. That's what
she's a hairstylist on Jersey.
She's in the wrong film.
You told your brother that there was someone else in the room.
There was.
That'll do, Anne.
I've seen them too. Sooner or later, she'll see them. Then everything will be different.
So throughout that first, I don't know, hour or so, like, the kids are like seeing these ghosts, as we say, but yeah, she doesn't believe them. She basically says they're lying, and, you know, she makes...
Well, it's one specific boy, like young child ghost that they keep seeing.
It's
the two
Victor,
kids are like,
isn't it?
Victor, that's it, yeah. Victor did this, and Victor
it's
said
the girl,
that,
isn't it, who sees Victor.
Yeah, and
in
Nicole
the room.
Kidman doesn't believe. Nicole Kidman, like, the mother is like, if you lie, you will go to hell, and all this, and it's all very, you know, you shouldn't lie and all this business.
That's where children go who tell lies, but they don't just go there for a few days. Oh, no. No, they're damned. Forever. Think about it. Try to imagine the end of eternity.
She's so well cast in this movie, because you make a scary movie and Nicole Kidman's got these big, beautiful, pale blue eyes, and they're just so perfect for, like, the scared bunny rabbit horror role, you know, where you've kind of got to look, you know, at the monster or whatever, and it's so she's so well cast in this.
She's brilliantly well cast, I think. The opening of this whole film is her having a blood-curdling scream, and it's just like, ah!
Oh, yeah.
And you're just like, oh, my God, what am I in for? And then what they've done in this film, kind of on that kind of horror-y scariness, you get that, so your volume is quite like loud, and then they, in the next scene, like, or throughout the whole film, they talk. They whisper, pretty much so softly spoken, so you have to turn the TV up. It's very clever. But then what happens is when you get a big jump scare, they're bigger because the jump scares are massive. So that contrast of that, you know, silent, eerie house is often but with those massive jump scares of like a child or the woman, as you say. Yeah, it's accentuated. But yeah, one thing I did write down, first 10 minutes of this film, I hadn't seen this film for so long, and I knew there was a twist. I'm not going to give away the twist now, don't worry. But I wrote down in the first 10 minutes who is dead and who is alive. And I think...
Oh, really?
That was what I was trying to work out. I found that this film was not necessarily a straight-up horror for most of the film. It was almost a bit of a M. Night Shyamalan, like trying to figure out what was going on for me.
What a twist.
A bit of a mystery, yeah.
Yeah, M. Night is a perfect comparison, actually, because it's less about the obvious horror and more about the build, what's going on. Yeah, the build and like work it out, figure out what's going on in these scenes. So, yeah.
It is a classic sort of haunted house type movie. I mean, there's been quite a few over the years. You look at, I think it's the 60s film, like The Haunting was one of the earliest examples. Then you had the Amityville horror type films. You've had The Conjuring in more recent times. And certainly The Woman in Black, I should say. There's the more recent, I think Daniel Radcliffe one. And there's an absolutely brilliant, and I mean truly brilliant 1980s like TV movie that was made in the UK, The Woman in Black, and that is the sort of film where you can sort of feel the goose pimples on the back of your neck, your skin crawl in a couple of scenes, and it's all about the suggestion. And I think a good chunk of this film is about the suggestion, the idea of trying to build that up. There's another one as well, The Entity, that's especially good.
Just on Women in Black, when I was 16, studying drama, we went and saw Women in Black, the play, at the theatre. And I've never seen Steve Sills scream so much in a play, because it was one of the best, and still is one of the best plays I've ever seen. Not a lot of scares, but like you say, like the suggestion of that. And just on that haunted house thing, like I think there was a series a couple of years ago, The House, or I can't remember what it's called now, The Haunting of Hill House, I think it was, and that was pretty. Well, there
was two in the end. Yeah, there was like the original one,
and then I think the American Horror Story have definitely done this story before as well. But yeah, it's definitely a classic story. But obviously in this adaptation, if you like, we've got this whole war thing. You've got the relationship with these kids, you've got the relationship with these servants, and then I knew that there was going to be a twist of some kind. Maybe I just knew there was going to be a twist. Do you fancy sending us a film to review, or letting us know your thoughts on a film that we have discussed? All of your comments will be read out in our end of season leaderboard episode. Email us on offradarpod@gmail.com, tweet us at offradarpodcast, message us on Facebook. All links and info in the description down below.
Do it! Do it!
I guess there was the Poltergeist as well. Quite a few sort of those horror films that didn't necessarily, although Poltergeist probably a little bit more, didn't rely necessarily on too many scares. It's just that sort of building up of fear. The tension. The tension, absolutely. And I think that's something where there's one thing I can certainly say about this film is with the casting, they got it absolutely bang on, because it's really, really easy to cast a child that's completely unconvincing or ridiculous or overacts or whatever. And there's so many scenes in this where they heighten the tension by just being very, very serious, like conversations with sort of Nicole Kidman's character. And they just do it absolutely brilliantly. And I think that is something that could have very easily made this film sort of laughable, or as soon as that tension breaks, the film will lose its power over you. I think that's a very important thing. And this film does a very good job of keeping that going throughout the sort of 100+ minutes running time.
I think the fact that they're English, British, kind of adds something, doesn't it? The fact that they've got English accents, or pretty much everyone has, or Irish accents in this film. Yeah, it does. It feels like, I guess, a bit more, well, I don't know why, it just feels spookier, and in that wartime as well. Christopher Eccleston's character we kind of mentioned, so his character is slightly odd. He kind of he's gone away to war. You presume he's dead, basically. And then there's a scene later on in the film where Nicole Kidman is like basically walking through the woods, and it's about as misty as it can get. It's still the grounds of the house, because it's the only point I believe we see in the film where she leaves the actual house. And again, there's this whole thing, the photosensitivity, not really wanting to be in the outside, being so cut off in Jersey, and the kind of help deal with all the stuff on the outside. So it's the only time she goes out, and as you say, it gets very, very misty, foggy, whatever you want to call it. Again, another horror trope. You can see that mist kind of forming as she's walking out there, and you hear something, and then you see this figure, and you're like, oh shit, who's this? And yeah, it's Christopher Eccleston, almost come back from war, and almost come back from the dead. Well, and yeah, it's really it's funny because the next part of the film, you know, his character is suffering with PTSD. You presume at first he's like just laying in bed. He's pretty much giving the kids nothing, much like her actually. These poor bloody kids. And then Nicole Kidman is kind of like giving him the time and space to, you know, like almost come back to her. So you do, like, at this stage I was like, okay, or maybe he's dead as well, and it kind of plays around with what's going on in this kind of thrillerness about it. There's a mystery unfolding, isn't there? And like you say, you second guess yourself quite a lot. I think the kind of the help, Mrs. Mills and co, they try and sort of make things stable. They're very sort of calming voice for the children. They try and sort of stop Grace from sort of going above and beyond, over the edge, I suppose. And when the father does come back, when Christopher Eccleston's character comes back, it's almost like a break from a lot of this sort of trauma, in the sense of, oh, finally something nice is happening to this family. Their dad's back. The kids are all super excited. And as you say, unfortunately, he's still quite cold. But there is like a nice scene, I guess, when kind of they end up sort of making love, they kind of reconnect, and then not too long afterwards he says, I need to go back to the front. And she's like, what are you on about? The war's ended. And he's kind of like, the war's not ended. And it's just like, what's going on? Because it's a very sort of confusing scene, I suppose. And then he goes, and he's just gone. Where does he disappear to? Why does he disappear? And there's also like a little nudge nudge wink wink when he kind of first walks up the stairs. It sounds like someone's almost like walking with like chains, that kind of rattling sound. And you think, oh, that's kind of sort of, there's this sort of old, again, sort of convention in a lot of films or whatever, where sort of ghosts or like zombies or whatever used to walk with like chains and that rattling in the night and those sort of scary sounds. And I think there's quite a lot of that atmospheric elements of the sound and the set design and the way it's shot, and certainly the lighting as well. I think the director even said that some of the scenes were shot just with candlelight, which for a sort of major motion film is extraordinarily rare, because there's always a giant light beaming in from somewhere in most films. But I think they do a really good job of kind of keeping that sort of gothic, sort of old English style to keep up the sense of creepiness. There's an interesting scene where she finds like some photo albums, and this is something that is really very creepy, is that she's looking through the photo albums. She's like, why are all these people asleep? Well, it was actually very common in the 19th century for people's only photograph to be of them after they'd died, with this theory that if they took the photo, that hopefully their like soul or being will live on in these photographs. And it's really quite creepy. And one of the actual photos in the album is of the director, in fact. So it's this sneaky little cameo. That's pretty cool. I like that. But yeah, it is based on sort of real life as well. It's something that's pretty common. Like there was a spell where you could sort of go to flea markets and find photos of dead people, which is obviously a bit freaky. So yeah, I think that really adds to that kind of tension. And again, that then becomes a plot point later on that I'm sure we'll get into, why that becomes. Oh, Smith's about to get into it. Well, just I can't wait. Just before I do, I was just gonna talk about a couple of the ghosts that we do see. So a bit later on in the film, we see this old woman. And I think this is probably one of the scenes that is obviously in the trailer, and it's a scene I kind of remember.
Yeah, then they're like, "Who's the old lady?" "That's my old lady."
Was that Wayne's World?
Wayne's World 2.
Oh, right, okay. Anyway, so anyway, like Nicole Kidman, I think it's the first time she sees a ghost, and she walks into a room where she thinks her daughter is playing in this kind of old white dress thing, and it's over her head.
Yeah, she's got like a big veil.
Yeah,
yes.
And then she turns around, she looks down, and she sees the hand, and it's like, wait a minute, her skin disease has gone mental when she's got really old, or there's someone else there, and it turns around and it's this creepy old woman who looks kind of blind and like possessed, and that was always really. But
she
freaky.
Still speaks like her daughter as well. Yeah. She's like, "I am your daughter," and she's like, "You're not my daughter."
What have you done with my daughter? Are you mad? I am your daughter. You're not my daughter!
So anyway, some of these like ghostly bits I think are really well done. There's also another bit in the bedroom with the siblings in bed, and the curtains are being opened.
Oh, Victor running around.
Yeah, and she's like, Victor, stop running around, or whatever. And the boy's like, don't scare me. And anyway, something like that.
This is like watching the movie.
I was going to say, yeah.
Don't scare me, Anne. Don't scare me. Fly. And then anyway, it's really well done. But he's absolutely petrified. And there is something about in horror generally when you've got children involved that it is more freaky. So this fact that this Victor is that, but I thought that was a really well done, scary scene, and I think all the tension throughout this film is done really well to build to these moments where you get
the scary footsteps, the breathing, all that kind of stuff. And this is one of the
playing,
this is like a set piece, and it's one of the biggest moments where it's like, actually, they're not crazy. There's something clearly untoward going on in this house.
She won't stop until she kills us.
Come with me.
You're wicked! You're wicked!
It kind of gets mentioned earlier that they're talking about Jersey during the 19th century, and there was an outbreak of like TB essentially that led to a lot of people leaving the island. And she finds the photo of this sort of family of housekeepers, so Mrs. Mills, her daughter, and I think her husband as well, and they are there with their eyes closed and they are not sleeping. They died. And she turns it over and it says, I think, 1897, so that was the year they died, and we're obviously in 1945. And it kind of indicates, oh my goodness, these people have been ghosts this entire time. What the hell?
No! Children! Come here! Run! Can't you hear it? There's someone there.
Well, they've been hiding gravestones, haven't they? They've been, so again, sort of hiding gravestones from the outside, been trying to make it so that the family do not find many things kind of that have happened in this house, because it's essentially been generations of people living in this house who have died.
And I was going to say, and then the film culminates with this scene of like this blind old lady at a table.
Well, it's the same blind old lady that is her daughter, the ghost that she sees in the vision.
And I guess this is all spoilers, by the way. I should have put that in.
Well, obviously we're getting to that point, I think. Yeah.
So yeah, basically they're like all around this table, this family, and you're like, okay, what's going on? And you realise that everybody in that house, Nicole Kidman, the kids, the servants, are dead, and they have been dead for a long time. And the people in the house that you believe are ghosts are actually alive. So they're
conducting a seance.
Yeah, the blind old lady is the one conducting it. So she has this connection between both worlds, the ethereal plane, is that the right word? And the standard plane. So she's she can speak with the daughter, and so she's writing on bits of paper or writing things and hearing things. And the revelation is that Nicole Kidman killed her kids. And it's like,
and then herself, right?
Children, if you're dead, why do you remain in this house?
We're not dead!
Why do you remain in this house?
We're not dead! We're not dead! We're not dead! We're not dead!
Why do you remain in this house?
We're not dead!
We're not dead. We're not dead.
We're not dead!
and it's quite a traumatic scene actually when they're doing the seance where she's sort of scribbling on the paper and the kids are screaming out, "We're not dead, we're not dead," and Nicole Kidman sort of comes in, grabs the paper and rips it up, and Keith Allen's in there and he's like, "Oh, Liliana, that's
Keith
my
Allen,
daughter. Yeah, Vindaloo," and he starts like dancing on the no, that doesn't happen. He wrote Vindaloo, so there you go.
I know that. Yeah.
Well,
Tell us a bit of trivia. Tell us a bit of trivia we don't know. Nige.
Did you guys see this twist coming?
No,
I didn't.
I didn't either. Even though I knew there was a twist of some kind.
It's very clever. If you watch it again, there's so many subtle hints that if you put them all together, they're not so subtle anymore. But yeah, it completely caught me by surprise. I assumed like the sort of housekeepers were ghosts, and I thought that was the twist.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah,
you kind of think
not.
But the fact that it's a little bit more convoluted than that, it's really well done and a really good twist that it's a hard thing to do. The only question mark, the husband Christopher Eccleston. So I take it he was a ghost.
He was also a ghost, and he said, "I've come back to kind of see them." So he had come back from whatever afterlife plane he had been on to kind of see the family.
So this weird kind of PTSD and stuff, which, well, is what I presume it was. It was more the fact that he knew. Was he conscious of the fact that he knew what was going on and he just didn't say? Or is that, or not?
Who knows? I don't know. Maybe there's an element.
It's one of the mysteries of the film.
Yeah, maybe there's the element of like it's difficult to say. Like, obviously he comes back and he hugs her and everything like that, but he's so sort of shocked almost to be there. But I think he realizes that he's kind of on a different plane to them, I guess, in a way. But
he didn't die. That's the other thing. He didn't die in the house. So he died on the battlefield. So he died separately, right? Yeah,
and then like he uses his ghostly powers that he got from the spirit world, from Gozer, and decides, I'm going to go and visit the wife, have a good little shack up with the wife, because it is Nicole Kidman. And
doesn't seem to get the closure that he needs. But anyway, that was I'm a bit like, that is one of my criticisms of this film, is his character, to be honest. I just apart from giving her and them,
well, they needed something in that film, because it was I mean, needed to put something in there. So
I guess that gives it a bit more depth. But yeah, for me, that whole part of it was like, what is that anyway? Trivs, Nige, give us some trivs.
So, in terms of trivia for this film, it was actually the last film that Nicole Kidman worked together with Tom Cruise on. Obviously, they were a very famous power couple in Hollywood. But this was the end of their divorce. You could say almost that they died after this film.
But you say
he wasn't involved in the film, was he?
Yeah, Tom Cruise was executive producer.
Was he?
Oh, I totally missed that. I totally missed that.
Yeah. Come on. And he was actually a big fan of Eric Sykes and was the reason that he was cast in this film.
What?
Yeah, because he'd seen him...
oh, shut up.
No, honest to God. He was very impressed with him by his theatre work. So there you go. And Sykes was equally effusive with his praise for Nicole Kidman, who was very...
Eric Sykes and Tom Cruise.
Yeah, those guys hanging out. But the kids,
love it.
Obviously they did a tremendous job of casting. I do think they're brilliant in this. I think I read 2,000 people that they'd kind of auditioned for the children, so it took them a very, very long time. I mean, the film it's 5,000 in fact, sorry.
Wow.
This film was a huge success. It cost...
There aren't that many kids in the world, so that's a lie.
Not that many ghost children, no. They had
exactly. So that's my point.
Ghost children. But I mean, this film cost less than 20 million to make, made over 200 million. It was a huge success. And I think as part of that as well, it was recognised by various awards. It got nominated, I think, for BAFTAs, so did quite well in that sort of perspective. But in terms of actual trivia, obviously you've got kids. To get them worked up, the director would play like spooky music to try and freak them out, which I think is a nice way of doing it. And also, I think one of the sort of key points of this is they looked at a lot of actresses for this film. I think Emily Watson was one of the first names that was considered to do this, but they sort of settled on Nicole Kidman. But she had just come off of doing Moulin Rouge, and if you compare the colours, the brightness, the brashness of that film with this, she didn't actually want to do it. She thought it was too dark, and even during rehearsals she almost quit because she didn't feel like she could go in the mental space to do this. And in fairness to Nicole Kidman, I think she is brilliant in this film. I do think she, like as I said, the acting across the board is actually fantastic. But she said at one point, I didn't want to make this film because I just couldn't go there emotionally, and she was having a lot of nightmares whilst shooting this film. And not the nightmares of the 1980s TV show where you get to put on a hat and go spellcast, Trigard. But so
sidestep left.
Which is trivs. Good trivs.
Last bit of trivs. The old lady, she was 99, and this was her last ever film.
Oh wow! I thought he was going to say she's still with us. I was like, my
she
God,
was actually dead in the film.
No, to be fair, she did die like 12 years later. When she was 99, she was 85 at the time, or 87. Who cares?
So she wasn't 99.
She was 99 at one point.
Well, she died at 99. She wasn't 99 when they made the film.
No, but she looked it, didn't she? She bloody looked it.
That's the weirdest trivia. She died at 99 and she was 70 when she made this film. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so Ross, this is what Ross has written. Shall we kick off with Ross? Let's kick off with Ross.
Just kick off with the Camel.
The Others, The Camel's Review. A creepy, eerie and atmospheric horror that, although granted not entirely original in the plot twist, the way it builds... Well, I thought it was, but anyway. The way it builds, particularly in the second half of the film, delivers chills to me every time I watch it. The brilliant use of symbolism, such as the darkness fog representing Grace's denial of the truth and the situation as what's happened to her family and herself, adds a fantastic layer to this film. And Ross has given this, he obviously likes this film, a 9 out of 10.
Wow.
Oof. So maybe we'll leave Etok till last on this occasion because
save the best
because I feel a 10 coming. Shall I go? I'll go. I've seen this film before, but I couldn't really remember it apart from the old woman scary bit. So I was kind of looking forward to giving it another revisit. I'm a fan of horror. I like ghost stories, but they are scary. I wouldn't say this film is a really scary film, but as you both pointed out, like, it's the tension and the mystery, and I quite like the fact that it is a bit of a trying to figure out what's going on. I think the casting, as you said, Nige, is spot on. I think Nicole Kidman's an awesome actress, and I'm surprised we haven't actually kind of done her on the podcast before, but she's so good in this role. The big eyes, like you said, Etok, and then the fact that, like, little touches, like the fact that her hair never moves and stuff is obviously because she's dead, and I didn't really see that, but I think if I go back and watch this, you kind of pick up more out of this film. There were moments in this film where I did think I've seen this film before, in the sense of it's another horror story with kids and ghosts, but I think because the twist is so good, I think that does elevate what is a pretty average film. For me, would I watch this again? I probably would, just to kind of see that, but I'm quite interested to see some more of the director's work, because his storytelling and directorial techniques are really good. So I'm going to give it a solid but not spectacular 7 out of 10.
Hello. I kind of went into this film again thinking it was The Hours, so I didn't really know anything about it. I agree with what you said there. Like, it follows a very similar trend to a lot of other films. It's this, I guess, in kind of the makeup of the film, there's not that many surprises, but it's all done incredibly well. Like, it really does build the tension. The casting and the acting is absolutely sort of spot on. I don't think they could have done a better job with that. I think the kind of set design, the way it's shot, the atmosphere, the way it's built up is really, really strong. And the twist, I didn't see coming, which is always a great sign. If a film can kind of pull you along for that long and you still don't necessarily figure it out, I think that's a testament to the quality of it, even with all the subtle hints, which on a second watching, I think enhance it a little bit. What kind of disappointed me, I think, was the fact that whilst the kind of twist at the end was good and it's caught me by surprise, I think the kind of build up to that is a little bit clunky. It doesn't really work as well as it probably should. I think it's probably a little bit too long. It kind of drags a little bit at points. It's kind of, again, because in a way nothing happens. It's just the atmosphere. But that payoff isn't quite right. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I can see why people really rave about it. I see why people enjoy it. I think it is the sort of film that you probably should watch. I think it's a good film to watch around, kind of like Halloween, or if you have a spooky night with the lights off, etc., etc. But yeah, it doesn't pull up any trees. I don't think I'll go back and watch it again. Now I've watched it a second time and kind of got all those like subtle meanings that I missed the first time. But like you, Smith, I'm going to fall on a solid, not spectacular 7 out of 10. It just nudges itself up above, just because, as I said, the quality of the acting I think makes a real big difference. And Keith Allen singing Vindaloo at the end, like in the credits,
best end credits ever.
Yeah,
best end credits. So unexpected.
It really was. ETOC, bring our score up even further.
Oh yeah, I'm going to take you to like new heights with this. It's funny because like you guys, I echo the kind of positives of this film that you guys have. I actually really did like the twist. I didn't think it was too predictable, and I think the film kind of earned it. I thought the visual style was strong throughout, and I think both of you like have stressed how good the casting is and the acting. There's no doubt about that. But I just think this, Nige kind of hinted at it in his review, but I think it very much is a film that I wrote down. It feels like a short film stretched to a feature-length film, and I think I've made that criticism of films in the past, where it's like, here's a film, and here's like, we're gonna make this short into an entire movie now. It feels that you could actually take this. I might set myself this challenge: take this entire film into Adobe Premiere and try and edit it down into like a 10-12 minute film, like short film.
But would that suspense and tension get lost?
Oh, probably, yeah, of course it would. But I think you can still build it up because the parts that you would exorcise, as it were,
very good,
are strong very good, thank you. Are strong enough, and I think that's the problem with this film. It's like, oh, that's a really good scene. Oh, that's a really good scene. And it just, there's so many scenes where I got so bored watching this movie. It's like, don't get me wrong, there was tension, but it's like, it's just tension. There's some characters talking. There's some characters walking around. There's some characters looking. You know, how many times can I get the children being scared and like, don't, the ghost? And it's just like, oh, this is, where's the... There seemed to be like either a subplot or just a lot missing from this movie. You kind of echoed it yourself with the random... I honestly think that the Christopher Eccleston thing in the script was just something they added because they were like, well, we've got nothing to do in this scene. What should we do? Let's bring Eccleston in and just have like... I understand why he's there and the purpose he serves, but...
He does look very sexy, I must say. Like, I didn't realise Christopher Eccleston was a hunk.
They just wanted a name in the film or something.
He's a hunky dude.
Sorry, I forgot to mention in my review, and something that another kind of negative was, you mentioned it sort of briefly, Smith, was like the sound, like having to turn it up in certain scenes because it's so quiet. Sound did my head in on this, like the actual. I
think they've done it on purpose, haven't they? Quiet. So that you get those.
No, yes, that's a choice. That's like, you know, we criticise
Christopher Nolan and his
Nolan and his audio choices, and it's you know, he loves doing those kind of crazy loud where you can barely hear the dialogue. And you can barely hear that. And whereas this film makes the choice of, I'm going to make it so you have to kind of draw yourself in, and then it's really loud. So anyway, I really didn't enjoy this film, and I understand why people do, but yeah, it just felt like one little thing stretched out to fill an hour and a half, and it felt even longer. I was just so bored throughout this movie. So yeah, I agree with your points of what makes it a good film, but I can't agree with giving it a decent rating. So with that, I'm giving it a 4 out of 10.
Classic 4 out of 10 from James Eatock. Shove that up your ghost hole.
Oh, Ross. Well, we tried, but we're sorry,
Ross.
Yeah. Well, There you go. The others. What do you guys think? Do you agree with Ross or Etok? Whose team are you on? Who's
somewhere in the middle?
Yeah. Or somewhere totally in the middle. Get in touch. Email us on offradarpod@gmail.com. You can tweet us at offradarpodcast. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube. Nice. All links and descriptions are in the description. And give us another film to watch. We need your help. We are looking to grow Off Radar and release more and more high quality content. Please give us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your pod. And why not share with your friends and loved ones?
Help me help you.